McCarthy. Is there an echo? Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today, we got an outstanding show on deck. What's love got to do with it, as the great Tina Turner said? Keep Ike out of it, because Ike doesn't know what love's got to do with it. What's love got to do? Do you know that song, Aleph?
No.
Great 80s song by the great. Do you know who Tina Turner is? No. Okay, sure. She's a famous singer, Tina Turner. She's known by many. There's an extremely good movie about her life too. So anyhow, she's no longer in love with me. We hear this a lot. There's this idea that you broke up and someone says something like, I'm no longer in love with you. It's actually a really common thing that's said at the end of the relationship. And again, this is one of those things, it feels like it's said more often from a female to a man. And translation, as the great Corey Wayne would say, this is just the loss of attraction. And actually, earlier today, when I was scrolling through Instagram, Corey Wayne had a post on a story where someone had said that they were losing attraction and whatnot. And I believe when someone loses feelings, loses attraction, falls out of love, these are all different ways of saying I don't have the same feelings in a different way. And like I've told many people before, love is different for different people. Translation, love means different things to different people. And when someone says I'm no longer in love with you, a lot of times, sometimes they saw that in a movie, because it's a common line that people come up with. If they were going to get more specific, that's what I think really hurts people, is that people don't get specific on their reasons. Sometimes the reason is something that's not quite as dramatic or generalized. Because think about this. If someone goes, I'm no longer in love with you. I'm no longer in love with you and you're in a relationship, but I love you. Right? Common theme. And most people would say, okay, I understand what they mean. Your interpretation, sure, but there's probably something a lot more specific and smaller things that have added up to them falling out of love with you that has possibly, and this is where people get crossed up. Oh, if I would have continued to date her, or if I would have continued to follow my purpose, or if I would have continued, these things come up, right? The reality is most breakups, not all, it's timing and circumstances, right? There's a lot of people that fall out of love because they changed since the relationship, but you didn't. Or you changed a bit, but they changed too. So how about the classic, somebody gets complacent, they get lazy, they gain a lot of weight, they get really comfortable, and they're no longer as attractive to the other person, right? Very common, right? And then someone breaks up with you, and they go, I just fell out of love with you, because they don't want to say you got fat. They don't want to say you're a lazy ass that has no ambition, and it feels like you complain all the time. But really, it would be better for them. It would be probably more constructive for you. It would hurt your feelings more. But it would be a lot more constructive if they told you that. The problem is, a lot of people don't like to hurt other people's feelings, especially in certain cultures. I believe California culture, people are really sensitive towards what they say to people. Oh, you can't say that. That might hurt their feelings. What if it's true? Now, it's really interesting. I'm gonna transition into something different, but it's gonna. I got a point here, so stay with me. Are you better off, or can you handle the truth? As the great Jack Nicholson says in A Few Good Men, when he says, you can't handle the truth. Can you handle the truth during the breakup? If someone breaks up with you and you're completely 1,010% in love with this individual, and you think, wow, I got myself a really good girlfriend. We got ourselves a pretty good relationship. She loves me, I love her. And you don't really look at it honestly. You go, oh, we've been together 5 years. Yeah, the intimacy's less. Yeah, I get a little bit more annoyed here and there, but we love each other, and I'm proud to be with her. And I believe she's proud to be with me. Then some things fall off. Some things start to fall off. You start to notice some things. Your gut says, things have changed a bit. Is it as simple to say, oh, I'm no longer in love with you? And then someone goes, what does that even mean? Someone's just thrown an umbrella over the top of all the things or reasons or specific reasons why they really aren't in love with you anymore. Because for different people, it would be different things. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not that easy just to go, Just like if you said, why do you love, let's go reverse. Let's reverse engineer this. Why do you love people that you're close to, you know? Why do you love your dog? If you got a really good dog, you got a really good cat, why do you love that cat? Alep's in love with his cat. Not in love, but loves his cat deeply.
Well, we're spending time together, and I could say that for me, when someone still standing by my side when I have bad time, that guy or that person will get closer with me more.
I think that it's underrated how much time, like how long you know someone, and how much you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jenny. I appreciate it, hon. She just dropped 20 on it. I believe that the reason you're so close with your family members, even if you live far apart, right? Like, you know, my sister, when she turned 18, she moved out of the house. I probably saw her, I don't know, 6 or 7 times a year after that. Like, I didn't see her very often. Doesn't mean we weren't close later on. But what's really interesting is that time. That's why I always tell people, like, if you've been in a relationship 5, 6, 7, 10 years, like, it all counts.
Yep.
It all counts. And that's a different kind of love. Trust, loyalty, all those things. But I think the reason why we really like our pets, like especially a dog or cat, I don't know if it's the same for a fucking turtle or a frog or a lizard. They just don't have personality, right? It's because your pet's unconditional love.
Yep.
Your pet's not going to go like, oh, you look like shit today. You know, like, get the hell. Your pet can be moody.
Mm-hmm.
Or your dog or cat can be moody, but that's one of the things. Now, in human relationships, I think what happens is someone doesn't want to hurt the other person's feelings and be specific. They know what's annoying them, they know what's upsetting. Some of the stuff's petty and it just mounts up. But then at the end, it's like, yeah, I'm just not in love with you anymore. Translation could be, I'm not attracted to you anymore. Translation could be, I don't want to be with you anymore. And then if they say, but I do love you. Translation, you're like family. Like, you're there for me. I appreciate the way we communicate. I no longer want to have intimacy with you. All the time. Right? Or live with you. Living together is hard even if it's your roommate. So you live with your family because you don't really have a choice, and sometimes family houses are really lovely and nice. But correct me if I'm wrong. If you had a family, or excuse me, you came from a family where you lived, let's say the more people in the house, the more conflicts probably. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. It's not easy living with people. It's not easy living with people. And the older you get, the more you don't go, okay, that's okay. Right? Like when I was in college, I had different groups of roommates. Some of them were really good, some of them were really bad. The surprising thing is, you know what wins the day with a good roommate? Individuals that are just responsible. They're always going to pay their rent. They clean up after themselves. They're not going to play loud music when you're sleeping because they got a friend over. Shit like that. Just responsible, accountable, and courteous. And if you think about it, it's kind of goes hand in hand if you had a partner that you lived with. Because if you got someone that you lived with, it's your girlfriend or your boyfriend, your partner, whatever you want to call it, and they're not responsible or accountable for their end, and you're sharing things together, that's the beginning to the end. But I really think that we get lost when someone says, I'm not in love with you. It's hurtful, but it's like, where did this come from? You could probably connect the dots if you knew your partner well enough. It doesn't necessarily mean those, because those are dramatic words. I've never had that said to me before, but that would be hurtful. That would be hurtful. What transpires for someone to get to that point is not always your fault. Now, this is really powerful stuff here, because a lot of people generalize this as, oh, you fucked up because they're not in love with you anymore. You stopped being about your purpose. I hear this all the time. You stopped dating the individual. You stopped showing them the attention they needed. You got too needy. Sometimes someone falls out of love with you because they met someone else. That has nothing to do with you. They work at a job. Human met human. Human attracted to human. Human sees each other 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You see your girlfriend, I don't know, after work when they're burnt out, tired for maybe 3-4 hours, and then maybe you get the scraps on the weekends. This shit happens. There's other circumstances involved when someone says they fall out of love with you. Now, here's the other thing, though. If you find it to be a pattern where you keep having these kinds of things happen, well, then there's something that you are doing wrong in relationships, is what I would say. All right, let me get to what motivated me to talk about this today. On the Discord, if you want to be a part of the Discord, it's in the show. It'll be in the show notes or below the live stream. There'll be a link there, then you can link up. But today, I wanted to just mention Mr. Clinical Pete, who posts on my Discord quite a bit and is a very knowledgeable individual, said, I posted this because of the comment about what love means to different people in yesterday's live stream. I think the Greeks got it right. To me, it's how one defines love. It's the type of love they feel or don't towards another, and what actions they take or don't to nurture it. In the end, love is an action, a choice. Very interesting. Love is an action and a choice. I suppose I could go with action. I don't know if love's a choice in my book. Not saying you're wrong, Pete. I just got to digest that and process that for a moment. I suppose if an action is love, then action is a choice. It also just depends on how much the word was used. Do you in Thai language? Do you say "I love you"?
Yeah,
Do you say it to your parents?
sometime.
Like when you say goodbye or something like that? I've never.
Yeah, sometime or some occasion.
It's common for your family members to say "I love you."
Yep.
Okay.
Why European people doesn't say something like that?
No. Well, this is what's interesting. Growing up, we didn't do it a lot when I was with my parents.
Yeah.
Especially my father. He wouldn't say, "Hey, love you, Dad." It's just.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't mean that it wasn't there, but my dad just doesn't. My dad's, I think it's the Irish background. I've heard before that it just wasn't used. It wasn't used. Doesn't mean, and it was almost awkward when you'd hear other people say it so much in their families. My grandmother would say, "I love you, love you." And now I do it. I make an effort at it. So I guess it's a choice. What Clinical Pete said was that the Greeks, and I wasn't aware of this, had, as I said, different types of love. So one is philia, which is affectionate love. One is pragma, and I might be getting these words wrong. Enduring love. Storge, if I said that correctly, it's an ugly word, which is familiar love. So familiar love to me would be family or some like neighbor, I don't know, neighbors, friends. Eros, which would be romantic love. Ludus, which would be playful love. Mania, which would be obsessive love, which would probably be the most negative one, and which a lot of people experience in a breakup.
Mania love.
Mania or mania. I might be saying this wrong. Phaladia, self-love, which a lot of people declare after a breakup. I'm going to love myself. Good for you. Good for you. I think that that's something that I never heard growing up in the 80s or 90s. Someone even say the comment of self-love. I think that's become very popular, and for good reason, in the 21st century with, a lot of people battling depression and being very hard on themselves. Agape, which is selfless love, which I would translate into unconditional love, which I would say is the highest level of love, unconditional love. Unfortunately, we do have conditions in most cases, right? It's just like marriage. Till death do us part, we'll be together forever, unless you do that. I forgot to add that in at the ceremony, that if you do that, then no. Have you ever heard that song by Meatloaf, Aleph?
What song?
Have you ever heard of Meatloaf, the singer?
No.
Or the group? And he says, I'll do anything. I'll do anything for love. And then he goes, but I won't do that. There's always got to be something, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the tough thing I think about marriage. It's like, oh no, we have to stick together. It's like, yeah, but I'm not okay with you doing that. I'm not okay with that. No, but you got to stay with me because we're married. Yeah, I forgot to add that in at the church when we got married together. I forgot to say, if you do that, then we can't stay married. They don't add that part in, That's the tough part. That's why I said in the 21st century we should just do contracts. Like, here's the contract. We're going to get married, but you got to do this. And you got to but if you don't do this, then the contract's over. Mm-hmm. A 4-year contract, and then after 4 years you renew the contract. What do you think, Aleph? Would you do that or just not get married?
Married or not, it depends on the girl who I'm married.
Have you ever really thought though? Think about this.
I did.
You didn't know what the question I'm going to ask.
Yes.
Do you really think when you get married?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Okay, let me ask. Let me push you into this.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of marriage, what do you think of?
Well, I think of someone gonna spending like more time together. It's like one. It's like you stick together and your love is more increased. Like you are the same person, like in the same way, because you are together, and even it's like you, no matter what is going on, you still fight for each other.
Okay.
And like the classic word, they say that till death do us part. Yeah.
So do you really think though, like, is there anything else in your life that's till death do us part with a commitment?
For unconditional love, I think yes, I have, like with my cat.
Good. Yes. Yeah, that's true, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I love you, cat. What's the cat's name?
FIFA.
I'll love you, FIFA, till the end. Till the end. I think that gets lost, though. Like the idea that you're signing up till death do us part for whatever. I mean, there's just so many things that can go in different directions.
I think before we married, before I get married, before I gonna marry with that girl, I gonna feel secure in my relationship that she would not do that. What I want
For the rest of her life?
No, it's like like that. Like she would not step on my back or cheat on me.
Yeah.
If she just did that even once, even talking, fuck off.
Yeah, because you're married, right?
Yeah,
makes a difference.
Even if not married, but
even talking. What does that mean?
Like
flirting.
Yeah.
Then you would, if you're married. Al's got a serious face all of a sudden. He's like, "You even talk to someone?"
If you're a friend, that's okay because that's it. Just a friend. But if not a friend, okay. That would be clarity of that. Because when I gonna date with someone, I give my clarity on this.
I think what gets, and it's funny because we're talking about love, but we've gotten into marriage. But I think that there's a lot of ego involved when it's your wife.
Yeah.
Because it's deeper, right? It's a step up from, even with girlfriend, that's my girlfriend. That's my wife. I've had friends be like, that's my wife. Okay. Like, right? Like, sorry she's an idiot, you know? Don't, you're going to have to accept my wife. No, I don't. It's like, you do have to. But, yeah, I think the toughest part with getting back to love, which correlates to marriage, right? Because you need to love someone before you marry them. Although I've had people tell me in breakup situations, I've never been in love with him. I married him for security. I had a story come in about a month or 2 months ago, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's horrible." At least the woman was honest. She was being honest. She was saying that, she married her husband for security. She never was in love with him. But she does love him and care about him. And I thought to myself, there probably are some marriages out there where the husband knows that and is okay with it. Because maybe that woman fulfills some things that he needs, and he's fulfilling some needs she needs. Now, in the storybook world of marriage and, how it pans out in Hollywood, you'd say, oh, that's not right. Well, it's up to the two individuals that get married to define what's right. Look at the amount of open marriages there are. I'm surprised. I've talked to people that are, swingers, or they have open marriages, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it knowing them. You wouldn't know it at all. You're like, what? I knew an individual in the last few years that owned quite a few businesses. I would call him an entrepreneur, very well off, a very healthy ego, and him and his wife. He was open. He had never approached me, but he had approached multiple other friends of mine that were couples about, hey, me and my wife are swingers. And they were like, how do you go about approaching that, right? It's like, hey, you guys want to get together and trade partners?
Fuck. Like what?
And I had people tell me that because they were more or less seeking out other people that were married. And and I thought to myself, you know what? It's a choice. I mean, that's how he runs his marriage, and everyone might go, "Oh, that's ridiculous." That's his. Well, that's how they want to do it, and they're happy with it. And I'm sure there was tribes and groups of human beings that have done this in different cultures before. Actually, I know there has been. If you read the book "Sex at Dawn" by Christopher, I always forget his last name. He talks about how different sex has been treated by different cultures, and it's absolutely fascinating how different cultures have treated it. But, what's love got to do with your breakup? I don't know if it has to do a whole lot all the time. I think in my experience of doing this for a while, Love is affected by the circumstances and the timing. Timing and circumstances are really at the heart of most breakups, meaning something's taking precedent or priority over the relationship. Think about that for a minute. This is when timing takes a big role. This happens to university students all the time. Someone's conflicted by the idea, I'm 24, 25, I've never been single before. I really want to know what that's like while I'm still young. That's actually a reasonable reason. It doesn't make the other person feel good, but they're like, I'm only going to be in my 20s once. I'm getting a lot of looks. My friends are all single. And then they come up with some lame reason to break up with someone like, oh, you know, they make up some shit. Or they're honest. This happens a lot. They're honest. They're like, hey, look, I want to see what it's like to be single. I've never been there before. Is that a case of someone not loving you? No, it's timing. It's them going, this is the time for me to be single and see what it's like and let my hair out and have a good time. And this is something that I've seen my friends do, and I want to experience it. It's also circumstances, right? I've talked about this before. Let's say someone goes, this is one that's actually common. Someone has to go take a job somewhere across the world or across the country. And they're like, oh, at first everyone goes, oh yeah, we'll make it work. Good luck. Odds are against you. I'm not against you. I'm not against you at all. It's just not the ideal way to have a relationship.
Yeah.
No way. Have you even had a long distance, Aleph?
Yes.
You had a long distance before.
That's why I said that I trust that long distance could be work, but for me, I don't trust in myself.
You don't trust yourself.
It's not just myself, but it's like if we stay long distance, I don't trust that. I cannot trust like purely. Like if I have to work like about a year like that, I can't trust in my partner that she will have only me. That's how I feel insecure in that relationship.
Is it any woman or just that particular one?
It depends on who am I with. Yeah.
Well, it just creates a lot of stress and neglect, and that's why I say like you at least have to see each other once a month.
Yeah, at least.
And time zone changes, schedules, all those things just. And the reality is when people haven't had a long distance relationship before, they don't know what they don't know. It's just pure ignorance. And they go into it like, we'll make it work. It's possible.
It's possible, yeah.
No, I have a client right now. I'm going to have him on at some point. Great guy. And he had been, I believe he's in his late 40s or early 50s. Met a great woman, had a great relationship. She had to move to a different country because of the job. And he said they were doing okay. But he played all the buttons right. He was very reasonable, understanding. He's a very loyal person. He had conversations when things made him upset. He was very accepting. But there was numerous times where we had conversations where I was thinking to myself, you have a right to break up right now. That was rude what she said to you, or that was fucked up, right? So in those particular cases, when someone moves away and they fall out of love with you, the circumstance was the distance. The priority that took precedent over the relationship was, I need to take this job for the money. I need to take this job to move up in my career. Translation, it's more important than nurturing our relationship. That's the way it is. The ideal thing is for you to be in the same town, same city, going in the same direction with the same, not this exact same, but similar goals that support each other. That's ideal. Problem is, in the 21st century, people change quicker. Yeah. It's just the way it is. People change quicker. They do. It has to do with the internet. Shit, you could change your point of view on anything in about 48 hours if you do enough research on the internet, because you'll find the other argument, right?
Everything could be expired.
And by the way, when we come back to what's love got to do with it, this is a really interesting one. Some people are scared to love because they've been burned. right? I just recently saw, and the guy sent me the screenshot of it. He was doing a dating app. And so he says him and this girl like each other, so they exchange an application where they can communicate. And the first thing that the girl sends, let me pull this up because it's a bit baffling. And it makes me go like, this is the problem with dating apps a little bit, is during the chat part of the dating app, you know, like where you're like asking each other questions. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's always women, but it seems more often than not that women are like searching for this certainty. Hey, if we start dating, you're not going to mess around on me, are you? It's like, we never even went on a fucking date yet. Mm-hmm. So it went something like, you know, the usual questions like, oh, what do you do? Different, you know, like stuff like that. And then it's like, what are you looking for in that app that we met on? Like, to me, the guy responded, meeting single women. Reasonable. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I'm looking to meet single women. I'm single. She responds, I just want you to know I really want to have kids and have a family. I'm getting older every year.
What?
I don't want to play games. It's not easy for a woman when they're not beautiful, but they have a good heart. Then she goes on to tell him, I'm really short. Do you understand what I mean? It's like the guy's like, what do you do with this kind of stuff? What all that stuff is her trying to cement a guaranteed
that you
husband.
Yep.
It's like Jesus Christ. Would you like to go on a date, hon? Would you like to you know what I mean? Would you like to see if you even like me? It's funny because I was at a coffee shop this morning having my breakfast, and these two women walked in. They looked like they were maybe mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s. I'm not sure. I wasn't staring, but I was doing a little ear hustling, as my niece calls it. Like, you hear a couple of things, but I had my headphones in, but I heard them sit down, and they were like, okay, tell me all about it. And it was like one of them had just had a date, I guess, right? And so your ears kind of like peek up, right? And she's like, tell me all about it. And she's like, okay, we met for a couple of drinks. We met for a couple of drinks at sunset. It was cool. He's cool. He's all right. He didn't look like the pictures or anything. Like, he looked better in the pictures, of course. And I'm thinking to myself, this is just me being judgmental. I'm like, hon, you're not that great looking yourself. Like, you know what I mean? So it's so funny because someone makes a comment like that, right? I suppose most people on dating apps don't look as good as their picture a lot of times because pictures are so doctored now. And by the way, people are going to pick their best pictures with the best light and the best pose. They're just going to do it, right? They're not going to pick the picture where they just got out of fucking bed with a hangover. So, and that's how, people look differently at different times. But I thought it was so funny that she's like, yeah, he did, so he didn't look that as good. And I was thinking to myself, well, you don't look that great yourself. But anyhow, going on about it. And then he lives here. He did this. He did that. He did this. But you know what? She went on a date. She's talking about what happened. She's talking about her take. The idea, but before you even go out with someone, to try to get them to convey love, marriage, and kids, and you haven't even gone out yet, that's not a red flag. That's a red ship. It's like, I don't know how to, that's a tank that's like, okay, I'm just going to delete you from anything. And And you know what someone doesn't realize they're doing in that situation when they're like, I want to have kids, I don't want to play games, I want to make sure you're not going to talk to anyone else if we start talking right now and we go on a date. It's like, number one, who do you think you are? Number two, it's all about you. Might as well just get on my hands and knees and just go, what else, queen? What else, madame? Anything else? Like if you're a guy and you get a dating app like that and someone does that to you and you start going, oh no, I'll only talk to you, and oh no, I'll only do this. You're just setting up the game to basically answer to anything that woman tells you to do, which could include sitting and staying like a dog for a treat. I mean, it's just amazing. When the guy sent me that, I'm like, geez. And that's what sometimes I think these dating apps have done. It's like someone goes, okay, you know, I've already got, think about all the information. Think about all the information that gets exchanged before you go on a date. Like, this never happened before. Like, you get someone's weight, height, you get their sign, you get the fact that they don't want to have children. You maybe, you know, you get all kinds of, you get their pictures. You get where they're from, you know, what city maybe. You get all these informations from some of these dating apps. And then you're like, I want more. I want to guarantee that you're going to marry me if we hook up on a date. It's like, you're bringing up marriage, kids, and me not talking to anyone else, and we haven't even gone on a date yet? Wow. I mean, whoa. The other thing is, getting back to the topic of what's love got to do with it. Has anyone ever had it? I only got a few more minutes left. I got to cut this one short today. Sorry, Rob.
Oh.
Has anyone ever had where someone said I love you really early while you were dating? Like really, like we were like, ooh.
Like you crushed on me before?
No, I've dated a woman before that dropped I love you pretty quick, and I was just kind of like,
What the fuck?
yeah, because I was just like, you're sitting there in bed and you just had a good moment or whatever. You maybe had some good intimacy, right, and whatnot. It's like, I love you so much. It's like, it's not that easy for me to say that. I've had it happen once. It was bad. It was awkward too, because she was a good woman and everything like that. And it like, I was just sitting there going like, I hold that one. I hold that one for the end, hun.
I don't want to say this as a guarantee, but in my experience, when some girls say something like that, I like to have a quick relationship. It means like she would like to forget her ex, or she just would like to have a boyfriend, like quickly have it.
You're talking about what again? Like an app?
I mean, like when we meet someone quickly.
Oh, you mean like a rebound, like right after?
Yeah.
It's common. I mean, what happens with rebound stuff is that someone's trying to fill a void, and it can work sometimes, like anything else. But then the minute something goes wrong, they think about their ex. The I love you within a week.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's like, I remember being like,
If relationship like a tree that you have to plant, I don't think that plant could grow up in 1 week.
Well, that goes back to people conveying love in different ways and falling in love easier than other people. I mean, who's to say one's wrong or one's right?
Yeah.
I'll just go with what I prefer.
Yep.
That's all.
And
that's my model of love. Like, to say I love you, it's going to take a while for me. And I don't want to be coaxed or poked. Like, hey, do you love me? It's like, oh, shit. I'll tell you when I want to say it, okay? Just relax. Nick Lindell says, hey, Mac, if I send my story in, what should be a limit? I asked because therapy, I wrote the details in 25-page Microsoft Word. It condenses, but yeah, I mean, 25 pages would be a world record for me. I don't know what fucking font you're using, but is it double spaced, 16 Arial? I like if the story's more detailed. I would say reread it and look at where you're running on or going over the same stuff again. Right? So I would say if you already wrote 25 pages, then edit it and at least get it down to half of that. I don't mind if it's long, I don't worry about grammar and spelling so much. Although I should say grammar should be like you're not missing whole words and, you know, like where I'm like, what did you mean here? So you should reread it, but it doesn't have to be, what I'm saying is you don't have to be fucking Hemingway. Okay. I'm an English teacher, so I'm an English teacher too, and my grammar's not great.
So, Matt.
That's ironic, right? It's like I consider myself a writer too, and sometimes my grammar's not great. Some people are grammar police, but I'm not for sure. What's that?
So, what marriage to you?
What's marriage to me?
Yep.
Good question. I just had something flash in my head, and I'm like, don't say that. It's a love pension, I suppose. For some, it's a death sentence, I suppose. But it's a love pension in the sense that you're going to deal with the ups and downs, the highs and lows, to be with someone in the end, which still isn't a guarantee. I would say that for me to jokes aside, on all seriousness, I think if you're planning on having kids, I think that you definitely should be doing that with someone that you would want to marry and be with for a long time for the benefit of your children. But there's a lot of dysfunctional families and a lot of problems. And you know what I associate one of the biggest problems to be with that? A lot of times it's finances. And it doesn't mean that like that's not. I'm just saying that like because you have to spend a lot of money on your family and it creates a lot of stress. So to me, marriage, and this is much different than I would answer it when I was 30 or when I was 20. I would say it's the best route. And this you're talking about for me, when you're going to have kids and you feel like someone fits into your life, you don't have to find a way to fit yourself into their life. You fit into each other's life really nicely. And that means that I think you can do this better when you're over 30 because maybe you know who you are and where you're at more. Where in your 20s, the dangers of getting married is you might change jobs, you might change where you live. You're still young.
Be yourself.
Yeah, and you know, I think when people in the 1950s and the 1920s, in their 20s, they might not have. People didn't move as much. They didn't change jobs as much. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't change religions or anything like that. Now, you know, if I meet someone during their 20s, they can go from, you know, being a hippie to being a business an entrepreneur to being, you know, a father to, you know, like people can change a lot. So I would say that marriage, I believe, serves a really good purpose when you're going to have kids and an extended family, and you're at a point in your life where you feel like you're ready to settle down with someone and grow with them and be there for them unconditionally. Then that would be ideal. And it's a really good question because I haven't really thought about it specifically for myself because I'm always talking to the channel. So thanks for asking that question. And I suppose you got to be the best way to do it, obviously, too, is to, and I know people read this and I've seen it before, is you need to write out your ideal partner, like write a description of who they are and what they would be doing. And you'll get a better chance at being, because a lot of times in your 20s, you're going on attraction, and then you let go of everything else.
Yeah.
You know, like you're attracted, the intimacy was good, therefore you thought the connection was good, but in reality, when you start living together and you're like, oh shit, I never did like that about her. Well, now you live together. Now you're together forever. Specifically, diagramming sentences sucks, but definitely helps with seeing how sentences are broke down. I hate grammar too. Nick, we're on the same team, bro. It's just ironic because I've been a teacher in Thailand for years as various English classes, and the students always like when I'm like, just do it. One of the things I have students do for English major, I'm like, keep a journal in English and don't worry about grammar or spelling because you just think in English. Anyhow, Nick, write it in. If you pay the money to have it read, then you have a right to, which is $25. If you want a public response, if you want to do a live coaching session, everything that you want involved in there, the twists, the turns, everything, then put it in. I think the longest one I had, I think someone sent me 3,000 words. I don't know how many pages that was. And we did multiple live coaching sessions. He had a lot to unpack. So I'm not afraid of a long story as long as it makes sense and it's not one big long run on. 25 pages seems long, but I'm not sure how many words based on your font that is. But like I said, it helps if you're gonna. Don't just send that to my email. Send it through writemac.com, WRITEMAC.com, and I believe there's no limit